All right, folks, here we go. We're doing notes 6.3, enhanced for loops. Too many people are talking. All right, folks, Java has another kind of loop, typically called an enhanced for loop or a for each loop. Those mean the same things. So here's a regular for loop that prints an array. So here I made an array. For int I equals 0, I less than nums.length, I plus plus, system.out.print nums. Done, right? So here's the same thing with an enhanced for loop. So let's look at what's different. Up here, we have this declaration. It says int I equals 0, I less than nums, I plus plus. There's three parts to the declaration line. Down here, we're just saying int x colon nums, and then we're printing this variable x. So I guess the main difference is the way we used to do it, we would get a number and then access the different elements in the array using that index number. And when you do an enhanced for loop, you're actually just getting a copy of each element one at a time in a variable. The downside is you don't know which element it is. You're just getting them one at a time. Great, you're getting them one at a time. You don't know that you're on the 14th one or the 200 millionth one. You're just getting, you make a temp variable, which I'm declaring a variable x, has to be the same type as the array, like it's an integer array, so this has to be an int. And then I can do something with it. I could add it up. I could see if it's the maximum, the minimum. I could, I can do all the things we could do before. Not all of them, but most of them. Hey. So here I've highlighted it in yellow. In the declaration area, you declare a temp variable that will hold each one of the elements one at a time. And then you have a colon, and then you have the array name. So, questions so far? I wasn't using curly braces on these problems because I only had one line inside the for each loop, but it's just like if statements and other for loops and while loops. If you have just one line, you don't need curly braces, but if you have more than one line, you have to have curly braces. So here's the same thing, but with where I'm adding up all the numbers in the array. And because I have two operations inside the loop, I'm definitely using curly braces. So see what I made a sum variable, set it to 0 before the loop started. And then I'm grabbing think of it this way. I'm going to grab every integer from nums one at a time, throw it into x. And I'm printing it and I'm adding it to this sum variable. So
that like temp variable goes down the line with, and like at first.
It goes from the first element to the last in order from element 0 to element length -1. Yes.
So is it not a more convenient way of doing it?
It's super more convenient. Yeah. Like, look at this. I'm not having to say num square bracket x. I don't know. It's just easier. We're like, hey, throw it into this x variable. I know I'm going through all of them, and now I can do whatever I want with it. If you had a string array, it works the same, but instead of saying int x inside, you have to say string and then some variable. I mean, I could have used x. In fact, I feel like not using x gives you the wrong impression. So I'm switching my slide so that it's using x. I mean, there's no harm done. I've got this string array full of colors. And so I want to print them all. So I say for, and then in parentheses, string x colon, and then colors, the name of the array. And now I can do whatever I want with that thing. In this case, I'm just printing it again. And of course, since I decided to change it, it would go onto a second slide. The only difference here is the temp variable has to be a string. So you have to pay attention to what you're doing. If you're working with a string array, then your temp variable has to be a string. And if you're working with an int or a double or Boolean, you have to do the right thing. So this has to be string x instead of int x. Yeah, super. It's just a little neater if all you're doing is trying to go through and look at everything. Is this type of loop better? Only if you don't have to change anything. So here's the deal: you can't change those things because you're just getting a copy of each element one at a time in this throwaway variable x or whatever you want to call it. And so look at this program. It gets every number from the array, and here this code, hey, x plus plus, we're adding 1 to each element. Awesome. But guess what? The array didn't get changed. This doesn't change the array. The array, all we were doing was adding 1 to a temporary copy, like when x was 5. Fine, we added 1 to it, so x is 6, and then that variable is thrown away. And then the loop starts over, and now x is 4, and we add 1 to 4, it's equal to 5, just for just a millisecond. And then it's gone, and the array has never changed. So this would be a stupid thing to code. Yes? Yeah, if you declare a variable outside the for loop, no, but you can't use that here. It still wouldn't affect the array. A for each loop doesn't change the initial array. Yeah. Nums what? Well, see, that would be sort of inception-like self-referent in that you can't, like if we said nums square bracket x here, x isn't the index of anything. X is 5. So then if you did nums 5, then it would be accessing this number. I'm just saying if you use a for each loop, you can't change the array. Just only use a for each loop when you aren't trying to change the array. So if I'm saying, hey, find the maximum value or print everything, a for each loop is perfect. If I'm saying, please go through the array and delete and capitalize everything, or go through the array and make every element 5 times bigger, fine. Just don't do an enhanced for loop. You have to do a regular for loop or a while loop. So this code is silly. Here's a regular for loop where I am changing every value, adding 1 to every value. Notice right here, I'm saying num square bracket I plus plus. That is literally changing each element to be 1 bigger because it's accessing it with the square brackets, not through a temp variable in the for each loop. I think that's it. What did we learn today? For each loops or enhanced for loops are another way to process the contents of an array. And here's 2 examples. Int n colon nums system.out.println n, and I did it with frogs. See, if you're doing a frog, you have to say frog here. And it doesn't have to only be one letter variables. It could be frog, my frog, this frog, happy frog, junior, colon pond. And you're going to get all the frogs one at a time put into that temp variable.
Start naming all the variables happy frog junior.
All right, so we got a ton of things I'm asking you to do today. If you didn't finish the warm-up, get that done first. Then we have a day 40 for each REPL, which is pretty quick, where you just write like 6 or 7 for each loops just for practice. And then we have a day 40 array practice, where I'm asking you to do a little bit more meaty stuff. But you can use for each loops for some of those problems, if not all of them. And then I'd like you to go onto the AP Classroom and do, there's a multiple choice problem set that's like, I don't know, 15 problems. We're just doing 1 through 7 today. So you won't turn it in. Don't turn it in. And in fact, I don't think you'll know the right answers. I don't have them memorized. Maybe I'll look them up and share them with you towards the end of the period, or we can talk about it. But I think what'll happen is we'll deal with all those issues on another day. But you can call me over and ask me for help when you're working on those. And then finally, I want you to do 3 more problems under Array 2 on CodingBat. Don't forget to log in. It's called Lucky 13, Sum 28, and More 14. Awesome. And I'm going to, somewhere in here, oh, maybe I never started the recording, and that would be that.
No,
But it
no,
sure,
it's recording right now.
but yeah, well, normally